I'm Katie Darrell, and today we are at home and social with Jackson Browne. Jackson, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I gotta say, I totally dig the new music video. Break this down for me, because so many of us were tortured over the last year only getting lyric videos because people couldn't get together to actually film things. So it was such a breath of fresh air to see this video and the surprise cameo with Phoebe Bridgers.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do. It just kind of happened, actually. You know, I needed to make a video, and I said, "What?" You know, and I chose Alyssa Torbenham because she'd worked with Phoebe, and I liked the video that they did. But it just sort of unfolded in a very natural way. It sort of evolved because you know, we just talked about, and that song was the song that we picked to be a single. But normally, you don't do a video of something that is depicting exactly what's going on in the song. You know, normally you don't, that's too on point, but this, it seemed to me like this was the only way you could do it. It's like film it like a heart operation, but all along the way, she saw it in a much more sort of cinematic way. You know, I guess, died down to the fact that the heart that they put in me is like this enormous thing made out of motorcycle parts. So yeah, it was kind of satirical and surreal, you know.
So the video that we're talking about, for those of you just tuning in, I'm talking with Jackson Browne, and the video is called Cleveland Heart. And yeah, you have this big mechanical heart. Well, there's two hearts. So there's the bloody beating heart, if you will, which
Phoebe, take out of it.
Yeah, it's like real gnarly. So you said that the director you worked with had worked with Phoebe in the past. So was this a last minute cameo appearance, or was it something that you'd kind of been plotting? And
it was kind of improvised. No, it was. I didn't even think of it. I mean, I had just worked with Phoebe. She invited me to sing on a song of hers, the acoustic version of her song Kyoto. So we had just been working, and somebody said, "Oh, you know, maybe Phoebe could be one of the nurses in this video." And we asked her, and she said, "Yeah." And once I knew that she was going to be there, I thought, maybe. Alyssa and I talked about it. I said, maybe when Val takes my heart out, maybe he could hand it to Phoebe. That, you know, I thought that would, and I was happy with that, you know. But then later they're discussing, you know, like you know, they write out every scene and that they have to shoot, and they had her sort of off to the side just holding this heart, and I said, that doesn't really seem realistic to me. Wouldn't they go put it somewhere or do something with it? Or like, just why would you show her again, just standing there? You know, and I'm talking this to Phoebe's producer, my good friend, Tony Berg, and he laughed and said, yeah. And she eats it.
Eat your heart out, right?
So it's kind of, as a metaphor, it's kind of, it works for me. So we did it because she was game, she was there, and you know, in a way, working with Alyssa, even though everything is sort of written and mapped out, you know, she was very able to kind of improvise in the moment, and especially take on the information about how certain instruments should be shot, or whether or not the drums come in precisely at this moment of a fill, so that we, you know, so it was very interactive. We had a great time doing it.
The mechanical heart that was used in the music video, did you keep it? Who has that?
I have that, yeah. That was made by somebody that made something like made a guitar or something in a Mad Max movie. This is the things that video directors know, and they like wind up. So they had commissioned this heart to be made. And at the last minute, it didn't arrive on the day of the shoot. And the guy had to call in favors from people that he knows in motorcycle shops all over Southern California to create this, you know, a dummy heart. And then then they got it there the next day, and they did some close-ups of the heart, but the ones that the doctors are holding up and showing to the gallery of doctors that are watching the operation, which is put together out of, you know, parts from various motorcycle shops. And I was from Long Beach to Reseda. I don't know how they did this, but it's kind of absurd. I think, you know, the whole idea of, you know, having a heart that doesn't wear out or doesn't, you know. It's a fun song to write. I love this song, actually. It's, you know.
So the song, the single, Cleveland Heart, is off of the new album, Downhill from Everywhere, out this July 23rd. Congratulations. Big anticipation around this. This was an album that you had written pre-pandemic, correct? But then held and released now?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty much everything. There were a few things I changed during the time that we were just sort of sitting there.
That's what I want to talk about, the tinkering. Okay, so as a songwriter and a producer, and you're sitting there and there's what you think is a finished material, but then now there's some time before releasing it. Did you find yourself tinkering away on tracks?
I did. And I have it's just me and my engineer could get together. There was one more song to cut, but it was written. And that I wound up spending like so long on that song because I had the time to do it. I just went on. I mean, that's the last song on the album. It's called Song for Barcelona. I even wrote big parts of it in Catalan. I learned, you know, how to, you know, I wrote parts from Google Translate but the tinkering, I mean, some of them had to do with like listening to a track and finally hearing that the bass part that I had asked the guy to play in this original session, asked my bass player to play, was really restrictive, and I should like free that up. And so I got him to come in and redo some parts that way. And same with another song, a drum part that could be a lot better. And so in a way, I learned a lot because of the period of time when you're finishing. Sometimes is very hectic. And you're just trying to finish. And because you're trying to get out of the woods, you're not really hearing what you have exactly. I mean, I learned a very valuable thing at this time, and which is that you can always listen deeper. You can always listen more thoroughly, and then it's never too late to do something better, you know. So I did a few things, and I took my time, you know, for once.
You've never shied away from social messages and having a conscience in your music. Let's talk about the new album and some of the messages and themes that people will hear throughout. I know there's immigration, there is same-sex relationships. Let's hit on some of the messages and themes within this album.
Well, the songs do touch on a variety of themes, and I think that they're kind of unified by the idea of, you know, love and inclusion. You know, the idea that we're here together and we're in the same boat. You know, so that if you said same sex, you know, the song "A Human Touch" was written for a movie about the AIDS epidemic, early days of the AIDS epidemic, and the courage and the love that was brought by these nurses and doctors who treated the first AIDS patients before they even knew how AIDS was contracted, and how they eventually took off the spacesuits and just treated them with love and respect. Yeah. And so many people were dying. But that song, the real message there is not really, while it is a song about how everybody just needs a human touch, it's also about, it's universal. It's not just about same sex. It's just about everybody needs, that's what everybody needs. And everybody needs that in the same way. In the way that I wrote that with two other writers, and I don't usually collaborate that way, but they invited me in on this song, and it was already a great song when I got brought in. So they brought me in to add to it and to make it into a duet. And but right away, you know, just the first lines, you know, you can call it a decision. I say it's how we're made. Means that, you know, like, I don't decide to be heterosexual, you know, I'm heterosexual, just like someone doesn't decide to be gay. And so that's the message in that song, is that it's you know, being true to who you are. And I think that in the immigration song, it's really the same message, really. This is, this story of a young person to come to this country to be reunited with her father and to live in this country and make a life. And she leaves half of her family behind her. And it's about giving respect, and recognizing the sacrifices and the dreams and aspirations of those people that come to this country, like my grandmother, who came when she was 16 from Norway, but and under different circumstances, and not to be reunited with her family. She left her family, all of her family behind her, and she came to work for a family. But people come to this country to make something new for themselves, something good, something better than what they had.
Yeah.
And so there's that. I think inclusion is the big theme in the whole record. I think also the song "Love Is Love" is both about, it's about Haiti, and it takes place in Haiti. And it's also about finding strength in adversity. And I sing in, I don't think I thought I was going to write a song that actually had Haitian Creole in it, but when I got there, it just really made a lot of sense. And it was a wonderful experience to, describe what I was seeing. And on one hand, I'm describing two people who are in love, and at the end, I'm describing this priest that is a doctor. He's a priest and a doctor, and he ministers to people there, but he also builds hospitals. And I'm describing, and I had to include him because that's the other kind of love and we have to, when we talk about love between two people, there's also the love that some people have for humanity and the idea that the what you do in this world matters, and what you do to help other people is as important as what you do to fulfill yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You recently worked with AXS TV on one of our new shows. It's called If These Walls Could Rock. We explore different venues across the country that have significant historical value. The Troubadour is one of those shows, right. And you made an appearance on this episode. Tell me about walking through those doors and being back at the Troubadour.
Well, the Troubadour is like it's an old familiar haunt for me, but it's changed a lot through the years. When there was no bar there when I first started playing there, and when they did put in the bar, it suddenly blew up and became like a place where people would,
Imagine that people enjoy a bar.
Well, it was probably a good idea. It might have been controversial among musicians at the time because there's a listening room. But what would happen is people would just be in the bar. And if someone good started singing on stage, someone would say, "Hey, check this out," and there 12 people would walk in and stand there in the doorway while somebody. But anyway, I'm talking about the open mic nights, Yeah. So I hung around for those. I don't think, as a matter of fact, when they opened that bar, I couldn't even drink. It wasn't legal, and one of the waitresses there made it her mission in life to make sure I didn't get anything to drink. Legally, I mean, they could have gotten shut down, I suppose. That's why they were concerned. But I didn't drink that much in those days, and or ever really. The thing about the Troubadour is that it was already an iconic place. I mean, when I first started going there, it was the club in LA where you'd see the really big commercial acts like Smothers Brothers, somebody like that. But also, it became a showcase. So the first time I saw Elton John, it was at the Troubadour. The first time I saw Joni Mitchell, it was at the Troubadour. The first time I saw Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, it was at the Troubadour. And there was room for a band on stage, but they rarely had a full band on stage. And then, because that was such a showcase, and because there was sort of rebellion among the rock and roll management, and they opened the Roxy so they'd have a club that they weren't going to be held prisoner by Doug West, and because he would sign some of these acts, but he would let them play there, but then he'd have options for them to play again in the future, and they were trying to get out of doing that. So another club opened that was owned by Lou Adler and David Geffen and others. So that club never became the club that the Troubadour was and continued to be. And what happened, though, is the Troubadour became like a destination for bands all over Southern California.
Sure.
Who wanted to play at the iconic Troubadour. And they got this sort of pay to play situation where they I know that they would have to pay, but they weren't getting paid. Because that was probably the case certainly the case in my case when I played the open mic nights. Eventually I got hired there, and my first gig at the Troubadour was opening for Linda Ronstadt.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, not bad at all, right?
No.
So, and then the next time I played there, I was headlining, and I had Bonnie Raitt opening for me. And she said, no, she didn't want to play the Troubadour. We were friends. I talked her into doing it. I said, you got to play the Troubadour. I mean, that's where, she said, well, I'd rather play at the Ash Grove. And the Ash Grove was the traditional club where all our blues heroes and idols, and also bluegrass, it was the traditional music place, and the place that Ry Cooder hung around, and David Lindley and people and Taj Mahal. I talked her into doing it because it was important to be seen at the Troubadour.
Right.
But also as soon as you'd played the Troubadour, you were ready to play someplace else too. But then Doug Weston would have those options on you, So anyway, what it was like for me to go there was a little bit, I've been there so many times and to see so many great shows. Mm-hmm. It's very different than it was when I played there, but I've been there all through the years. So it's like going to one of your favorite music places and have it be completely empty, and to walk around and look at whether it's, you remember the music that you heard there. Yeah. I remember listening to Patty Griffin I remember because I couldn't see her. And I wore glasses, but I had a LASIK surgery in one eye, and they did one at a time. So I couldn't even see out of my good eye. I was basically in the balcony, and she was just a blur. I remember seeing that show there. It was so vivid because the music is so intense, and the fact that I could almost see her. But you remember all these things that happened. There are a lot of. We go into it in that program. AXS is such a great
network. Yeah.
Network. Yeah. I got to do AXS TV program with my friends, with my tour that included Sean and Sarah Watkins, and that's online now. It's just a great. I'm glad we did it because we wouldn't have gotten it filmed any other way, and
sure.
So yeah, they told me the crew in the AXS crew, Stormer, I guess Steve Stormer was saying, mm-hmm. Well, about one of the ones that they did on the East Coast in one of these churches, I think
at the Old Brick Church. Yeah.
That sounds like it's going to be an amazing program.
I've seen the footage. It is spectacular. It's very beautiful. I mean, what a neat venue, and the sound in there. Oh, just really pristine, very pristine. Well, for those of you just tuning in right now, I'm Katie Darrell. He is Jackson Browne. He will be appearing on If These Walls Could Rock on AXS TV. His new album comes out July 23rd. It's called Downhill from Everywhere. Jackson, I can't let you go without taking one moment, 30 seconds or less. Can we just talk about Running on Empty? Album, single, spectacular song. When you hit those first couple of notes and start playing Running on Empty, what emotions go through your body at this point?
Well, that's a song that has always given me a lot of. It's always been a thrill to play that song. And the fact that it's really known, it's by everybody, and it takes. And it takes place in our youth now. It's almost like everybody's back to that place. And when was it? 77 or 76 or something, we recorded that. For me, it's just, it was true then, it's true now. Running on Empty. I mean, there's always a kernel of doubt or some problem. My songs is like running empty, running blind, running into the sun, and I'm running behind. But it's as true now as it was then, but it's also an exhilarating song to play. I love that song. Matter of fact, the guys that have played with me on that song are next door right now recording their own album. It's called, their band is called The Immediate Family, but it's Wes Kunkel, Lee Sklar, Danny Korchmar, and joined by all of our longtime friend, Waddy Wachtel and Steve Postel. They are a great band, and that record is sort of indelible.
Yeah.
And indelible.
It's a crowd pleaser for sure. Jackson, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Thanks,
I really appreciate it. I can't wait to get my hands on the new album, Downhill from Everywhere. It's going to be a real toe tapper.
It is, actually. Thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Katie.
Stay safe.
Okay, you too. Be well.
Hey there. Thanks for watching AXS TV. Subscribe, follow, like, and do all the good stuff. And make sure you leave a comment below. I don't know, just let us know what your favorite AXS TV show is, or who your favorite bands are, and what artists you're into, or just say hi, man. I'd like to be told hi. We love hearing from you. That's the point, all right? Keep it coming.